right, where are we? What is that noise? And hello, 10 months.
Orbiting Earth. Well, I say orbiting. More like pre-crashing on a spaceship. Don't know. And hello, pond. 10 months. Time flies. Never really understood that phrase. This is Neffy, this is Riddell. They're with me.
With you? What? They're with you? Are they the new us? Is that why we haven't seen you?
No, they're just people. They're not ponds. I thought we might need a gang. Not really had a gang before. It's new. It's coming down.
What is it? No idea. Not possible. Run!
Doctor!
I know. Dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, we are joined with the...
Hello, I'm Scott.
Yes, with Scott. This week we are looking at Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, our actual kickoff to Chibnall Month. I can't believe we're on Chibnall Month already. It feels wrong.
Yep.
It feels wrong to already be on Chibnall Month. It feels wrong that it's September. Life is slipping through my fingers. At the moment, it's horrendous. I mean, it's good as well. I'm doing so much. I'm so busy all the time. But what is this year? You know, I barely remember it. We were in a pandemic at the start.
We were. We still are, kind of.
Nobody's talking about it though.
But Centenary Special is just around the corner. We still have no marketing.
Yeah, what should be like a full-fledged trailer like Saturday? You know, instantly aging this video and podcast and wherever the fuck you're consuming this media, you know, because that's our luck. Whenever we say, oh, there's no news immediately happens when we can't record it. But the episode we are covering today, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, first aired on the 8th of September 2012, which was, of course, a Saturday and a upsetting 9 years, 11 months and 23 days ago. Almost a decade since this episode, and that's just wrong in every way, because 10 years ago it was Eccleston. He was the Doctor, right? That's what 10 years ago was.
I know.
Oh, it's awful. At the time, the US president was, of course, Barack Obama, and the UK prime minister was David Cameron. Such a long time ago, it feels like. Since then, there's been 2 presidents and about 20 different prime ministers. I have the number one film for both the US and the UK. They are very different. The US one isn't one I've heard of. The UK one is one I've heard of. Let's see if you can get either of them. Could you guess what's number one in the US now?
Give me a hint.
It's a spooky film.
That narrows it down.
It's produced
2012.
2000. I had never heard of this one. It's produced by Sam Raimi. Produced by Sam Raimi.
Produced. Okay. Give it to me.
It's called The Possession. It's a 2012 American supernatural horror film directed by Ol Burndall and produced by Sam Raimi. And got relatively negative reviews. It's like a spooky demon film. It's a spooky demon possessing film, and I'm like, cool, I don't care about that type of film really too much. Demon horror is like my least favorite genre of horror. Yeah. I find it's just mainly jump scares and shit and dumb storyline. But could you guess the UK one? The UK one is much more interesting.
Is it still spooky?
No, it is a remake of a classic.
2012. Dread? No.
Oh fuck! You're literally so close, like unbelievably close.
Am I?
Yeah,
because we're going to talk about Dread in this episode.
Yeah, we are. I was about to bring Dread up.
Haven't got a clue.
It's Total Recall. The relatively bland but pretty okay remake of Total Recall. It's fine. I think it's a decent enough updated version of the original. My little brother fucking loved it, and he'd never seen the original, and he thought the fucking like memory wipe time travel story, whatever the fuck is actually going on in Total Recall, was mental. And I was like, cool. At least it's like an updated version of a let's face it, relatively dated Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It's fine. The reason why I said you were so close with Dread is number one. The next day, September 9th, Dread becomes number one at the box office, and I
very interesting.
fucking love that film. It's just an absolutely phenomenal film. Every time I watch it, it's fantastic. It's the best use of slow motion ever on screen.
I need to watch it again. It's been quite a while, but yeah, it is excellent, and it deserves a sequel. It just never got that box office numbers.
Yeah.
And I keep saying they're going to make a sequel maybe someday, but... We'll see.
They'll remake it before they make a sequel, or they'll do like a pseudo sequel that's basically just a remake anyway. But yeah, I'd love to see a Dread sequel, or even a Dread TV show. I think it could work pretty well as a TV show. It's such a missed opportunity because that film's honestly fucking awesome. Awesome film. But that is literally, there was nothing interesting that happened on this day other than, of course, just a bunch of people dying, as is what is always happening in history. So I took a wee deep dive into the history books, and there were 4 interesting things. 3 of them happened in the 1500s. It was a busy year, a busy century even, the 1500s. In 1504, Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle, unveiled his statue of David in Florence. The one with the penis, which just featured in an episode of The Simpsons I was watching. Penis and all, which was the first penis in The Simpsons, I think. The statue of David.
Yeah, probably was.
Probably was, yeah. And then the second one was like Bart's. Weird jump. Weird. In 1522, Spanish navigator Juan del Elcano returns to Spain, completing the first circumnavigation of the globe. The expedition began under Ferdinand Magellan. I assume he died or something, and then this guy took over. But 1522, 8th of September, first ever person to circumnavigate the globe, thus proving it was indeed flat and on the back of a turtle. In 1585, the first permanent European settlement in the US is founded in St. Augustine, Florida, and then we are jumping all the way to 1986 with something just as worthy culturally and historically, and that is the Oprah Winfrey Show is first broadcast nationally.
Oh God. 1985.
1986.
86. Jesus Christ.
I've never watched Oprah.
Yeah.
I only have a vague understanding of what it is through watching American TV shows where they talk about Oprah being like the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, I just don't understand. She's like a lady that does talk show.
It's basically Ellen, but she's black.
Right, okay. Americans have so many fucking like couch talk shows. Like,
there's one for every channel we have, basically.
And
it's
usually the
insane
channels have about 6 different talk shows per channel. Yeah.
It's cheap.
It's
cheap entertainment.
Cheap entertainment, get a celebrity on, everyone goes, yay, celebrity, and then you're done.
Yeah, we do a little dance sometimes, or maybe that's just Ellen.
Yeah, or if they're like trying to prove Scientology's cool, they'll jump over a couch.
Oh, yeah. Also, The Simpsons was on an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Interesting.
We did a little animated sketch thing.
I'm sure it was terrible.
It was pretty bad.
Of course it was. Of course it was. That is literally all the information I have for the 8th of September, Scott. So why don't we talk about the creation of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship? Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, of course. We're only doing this because it's Chris Chibnall month, and this is one of his examples of being like a guest writer in Doctor Who. His previous works include 42, The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, which was a 2-parter, Pond Life, which was like a internet web short.
Yeah.
Mini-series that was right before Series 7.
That's like Ood on the Loo and shit, isn't it?
Yeah. Ood on the Loo was like the most memorable part. Mm-hmm. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which of course is this one we're doing. The Power of 3, which was only 2 episodes down the road from here.
That's a genuinely great episode.
Yeah, that episode was great. And also PS, which was like a storyboard short starring Rory's dad, set after the events of Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Have you actually seen that? It's very good.
No, I've not. That sounds heartbreaking.
It's basically Rory's dad gets a letter from Rory explaining where they went, and it turns out the guy who delivered the letter is his grandson, which was really sweet.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Chris Chibnall is a guest writer in Doctor Who. Some solid scripts, I would say, but most of them are very forgettable.
I think he's a solid hand when he needs to be. You know, if they have like an empty episode in the slate that they need filling, he can fill it with like fluff. You know, because that's what this episode is, really. It's the second episode in season 7. They're not really getting into any of the heavy arc stuff. They're not really getting into any big plot stuff. It's just fun adventures with the Doctor, establishing where everybody is still, you know, because this is the end-ish of Amy and Rory, the start of their end, where they're kind of like retiring, being companions and trying to settle down. And, you know, they're waning off the Doctor and stuff like that. Season 7's a weird season for Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's very strange. We do a 5-episode like series with Amy and Rory, then it's a Christmas special when it returns with Clara, which is a very odd way of doing it.
Yeah, it was a very strange way of doing it, I remember. Although I do remember being very excited by it, because like they actually changed the intro in the second half of season 7, and it's the one Matt Smith intro where I'm like, it's good, like, because I'm not a fan of the weird storm fucking vortex.
We'll talk about the intro of this episode, but I hate the filters they apply.
Oh, the like weird 3D-esque looking filter, like you should be having 3D glasses on. Yeah.
And we do this every episode. We just changed up the colors and added new textures to the logo, which also looks horrendous, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's not. Matt Smith didn't have great intros.
No, but the pre-production information is that Stephen Moffat basically asked Vermill, who was the production company behind the special effects, he asked what they wanted to do as notable effects for Doctor Who, and they immediately said dinosaurs. Now, I think he actually asked them this question because Vermill was basically closing down their TV production side, like straight after this season of Doctor Who wrapped up. So I think it's like we'll try and get
one
what
last
you want
thing.
to do.
Yeah,
one last thing, just to add on your CVs, like really impressive stuff you could do. I think 25 people was laid off.
Oofed.
But yeah, they immediately said dinosaurs, and this was the season of like movie blockbuster episodes. Like every episode had a new intro, as we just said. It also had like a movie poster. They were supposed to be like big blockbusters, like Asylum of the Daleks. The next one after this was the
Town Called
Cowboy.
Mercy.
Yeah,
I loved The Town Called Mercy. That was a great episode.
but yeah, every episode of this season was one part, which wasn't that great because every episode felt kind of rushed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it's a strange one because, you know, this is the quote unquote big blockbuster season and stuff. Although I feel like at times it's some of the cheapest, like visually modern Who's ever been. Like there's bits in this episode I could just be lighting and costume wise where it feels like a CBBC show. You know, especially with the Egyptian lady. I think her costume's fucking awful. Like it looks so cheap. And the effects as well. I remember the effects being pretty decent actually, like with the dinosaur effects when they came out. But they've not. The CGI specifically has not aged well. Although also interesting that Moffat must have had a thing for dinosaurs around here, because this season there's dinosaur, and next season he kicks it off with fucking big ass dinosaur again. You know, like.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. Yeah, and also this was right after Primeval, and their whole gimmick was, we're doing a dinosaur story every week on Saturday nights.
I remember Primeval, good show.
We need to do an episode on Primeval because it's so Doctor Who adjacent.
Yeah, it's like Merlin, you know.
Yeah. But so Moffat basically gave Chibnall the pitch of the secret of television success is that you put dinosaurs on a spaceship, and the whole title was inspired by Snakes on a Plane, which
I get that.
Have you ever seen Snakes on a Plane? I haven't.
I've not, but I've seen enough of it, and you know, if you existed on the internet around this time, like around 2012, even like early before then, if you existed on the internet in the past 15 years, you are extremely aware of what Snakes on a Plane is. Like, I feel like I know the entire film and I don't need to watch it because it was so prevalent in early internet culture, you know? And just, But I've never actually sat down to watch it because it's like a piece of shit film, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre idea for a movie. But yeah, Chibnall's first response was, "Can the Doctor ride a Triceratops?" And yeah, he immediately just wanted to make this episode. Moffat told Chibnall to make his storylines big in concept and to really use every penny of the budget. And I think the special effects actually hold up quite well.
I think the practical effects hold up well. Like, the robots look decent, the dinosaur animatronics are cool, or the puppets or whatever the fuck it actually is. And for the most part, maybe the CGI is okay. It's the CGI dinosaur, it's the CGI fucking Triceratops mainly. That there's one shot in my head, which we'll get to, looks awful. Like, but there, you know, it at the time it did look great. It's just aged because it's 2012 TV BBC One fucking Doctor Who CGI. Like,
but Chris had meetings with the mill and was told that the only creatures off limits were ones with fur, which makes a lot of sense. And Chibnall made a wish list and got everything he wanted in terms of like dinosaur creatures, which was pretty cool. The director of this one was Saul Metzstein, and he started his career in 1996 by being the location assistant on Trainspotting, and between 2001 and 2009 he directed 3 films. In 2012, he was a second unit director on Dread, which of course just came out a few days after this episode aired. So his episodes of Doctor Who he directed was Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, A Town Called Mercy, The Snowman, The Crimson Horror, and The Name of the Doctor, which were all really good episodes, I would think.
Yeah.
And after Doctor Who, he directed episodes of The Musketeers, which starred Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, I remember when that came out, and I tried watching it, and it was like, this is kind of boring, actually.
Yeah, I thought the same thing about the show. He also directed episodes of Ripper Street, Yumi and the Apocalypse, and Brassic, and he was a second unit on Suffragette and The Snowman, which was the Michael Fassbender solves crime in a snowy location movie. That got like hilariously, very famously memed when it came out.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Police. Like, yeah, that movie got torn to shreds.
Yeah, which wasn't a great movie, but I've not seen it, but I didn't want to see it. But yeah, that's it in terms of pre-production stuff.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Well then, let us begin our relatively deep dive into dinosaurs on a space. They're in a spaceship and they're going, oh no, how do we fly a ship?
We have no hands.
What are you doing?
Mixing my messages. How's the job?
We're about to be hit by missiles and you're asking me that?
I work best when I'm multitasking. Keep talking. How's the job?
I gave it up.
You gave the last one up.
Yeah, well, I can't settle. Every minute I'm listening out for that stupid TARDIS sign.
Right, so it's my fault now, is it?
I can't not wait for you, even now. And they're getting longer, you know, the gaps between your visits.
Are they?
I think you're weaning us off you.
I'm not, I promise. Really promise. The others, they're not you, but you and Roy, you have lives, each other. That's what we agreed.
I know. I just worry there'll come a time when you never turn up, that something will have happened to you, and I'll still be waiting, never knowing.
No, come on, Pond. You'll be there till the end of me.
Or vice versa.
So our episode begins in presumably sometime in Egypt with the Doctor and Queen Nefertiti or something like that, having solved some alien thing, and then she's like, I want to love you, Doctor, let's have sex, and he's like, oh no.
The episode literally opens up with an attempted rape.
Well, you know, I don't know if she'd go through with it if he said no, you know, she's just coming on a bit strong. Then the Doctor gets some sort of alarm and then immediately is traveling to the future in India, where he's finding out about the spaceship that is coming towards the Earth, and he's got the Egyptian lady with her. She's going to be a main cast character for this episode, and he's like, oh, this is very exciting, I know somebody that'd be into this. And then he travels back in time to meet this like Indiana Jones-esque dude, and he's like, hey, do you want to come on a little adventure with me? And then he travels forward in time again to pick up the pawns, and this is where we meet Rory's dad. For whatever reason, I don't really quite understand this setup. Rory's dad is changing a light bulb.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why Rory would have to call his dad to come over and change the light bulb. Like, it's not like a complicated task to do. You know, it's... and two people are holding the ladder for him to get up to change... The setup for him being there is very strange.
The thing with the light bulb is, apparently it might have been like a dropped arc to have the lights flickering in season 7, because if you see the next time trailer for a town called Mercy, there's also a flickering light. There's also flickering lights for the first 5 episodes of series 7, so the YouTuber Mr. TARDIS thinks it might be a dropped storyline, which is maybe why Brian had to come over, because the light just wouldn't fix itself.
Yeah, maybe. That's why he talks about it being the issue with the fitting.
But Rory's dad was Chris Chibnall's idea, and he wanted to show Rory's family before Rory left the show, because we have not seen Rory's family to this point.
Best idea Chibnall's ever had. Love Rory's dad. Love him. Wish we got more of him.
He's instantly likable. He reminds me of Bilbo Baggins or Arthur Dent. He's a very likable character.
Well, I mean, you know, he's fucking Ron Weasley's dad, isn't he? You know, hard to go wrong with that casting. He's a very charming actor.
And the Queen Nefertiti and the Indiana Jones man was also Chibnall's idea, which is something he does quite a lot. Just bringing these he's wanted to be like a bonkers combination of people from history.
Like, I get where he's coming from with that, but this opening to the episode, right, is foreshadowing for season 11 and 12 of Doctor Who, when Chibnall is in charge, and every single episode has the Doctor jumping between locations and jumping between time places to try and solve one problem, and meeting all these different people through history and doing all this, and it was like you know, I never really finished the video, but you know the video, The Death of Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Where it's like 4 hours long, so if you've got the time, it's probably worth watching. But one of his criticisms about you know, the Chibnall era is the Doctor traveling and being like, wow, look, we're in 1436 in Spain. What a globe-trotting adventure this is. And then they're there for 5 seconds and travel off somewhere else. For the context of the cold open, it works very well, but I feel like Chibnall took the wrong lesson from this, you know, because to him, that's an adventure. This is a sprawling, you know, we've got the TARDIS, we can travel time and travel to anywhere, and it feels kind of like foreboding, you know.
The problem is you can't really jump around that much in like a 45-minute episode. There's just not enough time to establish that. Episodes like Paraxis, which was in series 12, which was set on the beach mainly, but it also jumped around to like Tokyo and Madagascar, and it's like, why are we going to these different places? Why not just keep it all centralized in one location?
It just makes it feel messy if you start jumping around too much.
And also Spyfall Part 2, which takes place in like 4 different time periods. The Doctor's jumping around, and there's also a storyline set in the present with Ryan and Yaz, and it's just so much stuff to follow.
It is.
That's one of the biggest problems with Chris Chibnall's era, which is, very apparent here. But he wanted the most bonkers people from time and space and thought they could change the Amy and Rory dynamic, which I don't really see how it changes the dynamic here.
It doesn't. All it does is it gives somebody for Matt Smith to be funny with.
Yeah, it also gives Amy someone to talk to when the Doctor just jumps off and gets teleported later on. But aside from that, there's not much character to come from these people. Queen Nefertiti is actually a good character to choose because she vanished from history, and you could presume, the Doctor just misplaced her in time.
That is also, before we talk about whoever this Indiana Jones guy is, thought that I did have watching this with the Doctor, you know, going on adventures with this Indiana Jones guy and this Queen Nefertiti lady, whatever. It's very much... these are Big Finish adventures the Doctor's on in between these episodes, you know? Like, there has to be a Big Finish episode with Matt Smith's impersonator and Queen Nefertiti on their adventures, you know? There has to be at this point. It's such a very much feels Big Finish coming into live action almost, you know?
Yeah, you can presume that most of Big Finish's Matt Smith stuff takes place during this 5 episodes because the Doctor just... abandons Amy and Rory, as they say later on.
Yeah,
But yeah, the cowboy guy was originally supposed to be Buffalo Jones, but it was too similar to characters in the cowboy episode next week. And so he settles on a game hunter from British Empire who isn't actually a real person, but it's interesting that one real person and one fake person.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting combination.
And the Doctor materializes around Amy, Rory, and Rory's dad in a pretty very good effect that holds up very well still, I think. And he's just off running, you know, he's like, oh, we've got big adventure, everybody's here, not really paying attention to the fact that he's kidnapped Rory's dad. And then they come out and they're on the spaceship, and this is within 3 minutes. We have jumped to about 15 different locations and had meet all these new characters, and we're go. It's a bit overwhelming at times. Like, it feels like a lot is happening before the credits even start.
When I watched this the other day, it kind of reminded me of watching the first 5 minutes of Legend of the Sea Devil. Like, holy shit, this is going by fast. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming. Everybody comes out, and then the Doctor confronts Rory's dad as he's like, oh, did you think I wouldn't notice you sneaking on board my ship? Who are you? Why are you here? What's your plan? And then Rory, like, disarms him. He's like, that's my dad. You materialized around us. And the Doctor's instantly okay with that. He's like, cool, chill. I guess you're with us now. And then there was a line of dialogue that I was like, holy shit, it's Jodie's Doctor. Which is when he's standing outside the TARDIS and he's like, oh, I've got a gang now. I've never had a gang before. That was like it felt like Matt Smith channeling Jodie's Doctor. It was a very Chris Chibnall line of dialogue. You know, it's just the way that it was delivered, the way it was written. To me, it was like, holy shit, straight out of season fucking 11, you know?
Yeah.
Not that it's bad dialogue or anything like that. It's just like Jodie says that like every second sentence, like gang and, you know, dude, this is new and yeah. This is a very Chibnall episode, isn't it?
It really is. Like, straight from the get-go, you're like, oh yeah, this feels like a Jodie Whittaker episode. Just replace Matt Smith with Jodie Whittaker.
Oh yeah, genuinely, straight up, yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, make Amy Yaz, and make Rory like fucking Ryan. And fucking Rory's dad's Graham. Look at that. There we go. This is a Jodie episode. This is straight. Yeah, and then you got the two pointless history companions that are in this episode as well. This is a Jodie episode. And the pointless villain that's not really doing anything.
Yeah, he's kind of just lying down in bed for most of the episode, really.
Yeah. Wow, this really is a template. Wow. What a revelation. But they continue down the spaceship, open up some big doors, and they're like, oh my god, there's dinosaurs. Matt Smith says the title of the episode, where he goes, oh my god, there's dinosaurs on a spaceship. The dinosaurs run past on the screen, and we get our intro, which we both said that we're not really big fans of the filter on this one, because they have this strange like red, pink, greenish fucking filter on it that makes it just seem like it's out of focus, honestly. Like,
it's like if they just put the season 5 intro, put it through Movie Maker and just put a filter over it. It doesn't fit. It doesn't feel like
it's like you've gone into your TV settings and messed with the like color pattern. Like, it's slightly too red, slightly too green.
I mean, the logo has like a dinosaur like design, and it just does not look good. It has a very strange template.
I thought the dinosaur scales were fun. I thought it was a fun idea, but it is like somebody jumped into Photoshop real quick, set up like scale pattern, and then just covered it on the font and went done. Like, it seems very cheaply done, but I like the intent behind it. You know, it's cute. It's a cute thematic intent.
Like, what if it was made to look like the Jurassic Park logo instead of a dinosaur? It was like a TARDIS or something. That could have been fun, but
maybe probably tilting too close to parody for Doctor Who's.
You can make something look like something without it looking too much like a parody.
Can you?
You can.
Do it.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
But our episode opens up with the big game hunter guy being like, I'm going to stab a dinosaur in the neck. I'm going to shank it good right in the neck. To which the Doctor's like, hey, let's not go around shanking dinosaurs, and instead let's just try and figure out what's going on here, you know?
I don't understand why the Doctor
I don't understand why he's friends with him. Why is he friends with a big game hunter? Like a big game hunter that, like, Amy makes fun of later on, being like, history doesn't remember people that murder animals, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why is the Doctor mates with this dude?
To be fair, this incarnation of the Doctor is also friends with Winston Churchill, so...
True, yeah. Yeah. But they kind of like split up in a moment when the Doctor is like, let's look at this convenient screen that's over here, and you know, he's chatting with Amy and Rory and Rory's dad with some fun dialogue where he keeps confusing that Rory's dad's here on accident, and he keeps, you know, making little fun quips here and there. But
it's kind of funny, but I think the gag goes on for a bit too long.
I think it's at its best. Like the one line of dialogue that really makes me laugh each time I see it is when they're at the beach and Rory's explaining that Rory's dad gets like anxious when he's traveling, and Matt Smith just goes, "Why did you bring him?" You know,
I feel like if you just kept it like 3 lines, he gets confused. And then he gets it. Oh, I didn't mean to bring him along. It was, yeah. But there's a point where the Doctor just feels like too stupid. He feels a bit too much like Thor in Thor: Love and Thunder compared to like
I've not seen
Thor
Love and Thunder,
so yeah.
So.
Thor in Love and Thunder kind of feels like Homer Simpson, kind of.
Interesting. I'll be watching it in a few days when it comes to Disney Plus, but I just missed it in cinema, and then it got to the point. It got to the point where I was like, I can't be fucked going to the cinema to see it, so I'll just watch it on Disney Plus. But Matt Smith, Rory, and Rory's dad turn on the screen, and they're like, "We need to find the engines," and then they get zapped away. I like this trio. I would watch an entire episode of just the Doctor, Rory, and Rory's dad. I really fucking like Rory. I think he's an underrated companion at times, you know, because he starts off not really as a companion, just as Amy's side, like Mickey Smith, basically, but gets upgraded to full-time companion.
Yeah,
and
then he gets erased from history and becomes an Auton
for
a bit.
Yeah, he has a mental life, but I think he's one of the best companions. And he's by far probably the best male companion we've had in the TARDIS,
yes.
you know, because it's not very often we get male companions, and quite often they suck. And Rory's just lovable at every step of the way.
Yeah, I really like the dynamic between Rory and the Doctor here. He's not having any of it.
Yeah, he's willing to stand up to the Doctor at like almost every time. He's always a voice of actually, when Amy's just like fucking blinking, you know, like, oh my god, Doctor's so pretty, every other episode.
Like Rory here feels kind of like Giaz at the opening of Halloween Invasion, you know, just fed up of everything the Doctor's doing without informing them. Like he wanted like a peaceful afternoon of getting the light fixed and maybe having a wee barbecue in the backyard for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe watch Strictly Come Dancing. That's Rory's life.
He wants a very domesticated man. You know,
but here he all of a sudden he's just on a spaceship with dinosaurs, and it's like, yeah, I understand Rory's feelings.
But at the beach, Rory's dad starts to freak out a little bit as Matt Smith is confused as to why he's freaking out. He's also confused why they're at the beach. He tastes the air, which I know you're not a fan of the Doctor licking things. I think it's charming and quite enjoy it whenever it happens. It's like a consistent theme with Modern Who. The Doctor can tell things with his tongue. And he's like, okay, you guys need to dig. I'm going to go look at some rocks. Rory's dad has a great line about always having a trowel on him. You know, and then we also get a very famous scene where he goes, you should add it to your Christmas list. And Rory's like, I'm like 31 or whatever the fuck. I don't have a Christmas list. Matt Smith goes, I do. And I remember that was a huge meme for a while.
Yeah, I was everywhere at the time.
Mm-hmm. They dig through the sand, and they don't have to go far to see that there's a floor in it, and they basically figure out that, oh, this is the engine room, you know, it's powered by waves. Although I don't think they make that realization just yet. They do that in the next scene. This one's just like, oh, there's a floor, it's ominous. Then we cut to Darth Vader getting beeps and booped besides machines, as he's like, did you hear what they said? They said that he's a doctor. Oh, we need to get the Doctor here because I'm dying. And this is our villain for the episode, who's kind of a bland villain.
Yeah, but I do like the twist of, oh, it's a bit of a spoiler because it hasn't been revealed yet, but I do like the twist of he's not looking for the Doctor, he's just looking for a doctor.
A doctor, yeah. He's just like, I'm sore, I need help. Like,
which was when I was watching this, I was like, yeah, but how often does that happen when somebody calls the character the Doctor, and maybe it's a doctor we need, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, this is this episode. This is where this comes from.
Yeah.
It's a nice little twist. I find that funny.
Yeah, it's good. It's cute. We get a scene after that beach scene with Amy and the two historic companions that I think is a relatively pointless scene. It's mainly just like establishing who these characters are a little bit more. You know, we find out about the Egyptian lady that she's like tells off the guy for being sexist, and then it's like, yeah, okay, cool. We're just really building up these characters because we really rushed through their introductions.
Another reason why it's confusing why the Doctor would be friends with him, he's just openly sexist. Like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, he's very
makes
openly
no
sexist.
sense.
Yeah, it is a strange one for the Doctor, and this is also where Amy's like, history doesn't remember you because you're a total creep, and it's like, okay, why is the Doctor mates with this dude? Like, it just feels, it feels wrong. But then we go back to the beach for a relatively fun scene where they establish that it's like an ocean engine that this ship flies on, which is a cool idea. It's powered by the waves or whatnot, so it's got like an entire beach as its engine, which is an interesting one. I don't think I've seen anything like that before or since with this
It feels relatively understated in this episode. Though.
Yeah, it's really just they wanted to shoot this at the beach.
Yeah, it's like if you're not paying attention for like 20 seconds, the episode you don't really pick up on that.
It also doesn't add to anything.
No.
Like, it's just a little bit of interesting lore that doesn't play a part in the plot in any sense of the word, you know?
Yeah. I think the main reason is, they want a scene in the outside.
With pterodactyls.
Yeah, that's the only reason why we shot this outside.
Yeah, they just want to have pterodactyls attack them. Yeah. Which, of course, they do. The pterodactyls come swooping on down and everybody goes running. This is where I thought there was some really ham-fisted fucking exposition, which is as they're running, Rory goes, why can't we just teleport away? And the Doctor's like, oh, the teleport's broken. Like, it doesn't make sense why the teleport would burn out after one use. They don't really go into it. It's just we need to explain why we have to have an action scene here and run, and why we can't just teleport out the situation.
Yeah, it burned out on arrival, but why? Why would?
Yeah.
It's...
You know, it's the way I see it is it's like the why doesn't the Doctor just go back to the TARDIS and fuck off question every time, you know? It's you have to come up with like, oh, the TARDIS has been stolen. Oh, the TARDIS is trapped in another room. Oh, we can't teleport because the teleport's broken. There you have to kind of justify the actions because you're in this like improbable situation, which really in most you would just be like, I'm gonna nope out of here. You know, you need to force them into action.
But obviously here it makes sense for the TARDIS not to be.
Yeah, because they're the Doctor's like unraveling a mystery, you know. Yeah. So the main issue
it's going to hit Earth for some reason.
Yeah, the main issue is fuck. We've got to not teleport, I guess. But they run into a cave where British comedians Robert Mitchell. Robert Mitchell is it Robert? No, Robert Webb and
David Mitchell.
David Mitchell and Robert Webb. Famous for shows such as Peep Show or Mitchell and Webb look, probably some other ones as well, but I know them most from Peep Show and Mitchell and Webb. I quite like their stuff. Oh, fucking David Mitchell's on like 8 out of 10 Cats or whatever the fuck, like all the time. And he's a funny man. They are shit in this episode. They play two robots that are just there as celebrity cameos and have the worst fucking comedy banter you've ever heard in your life. It's the most childish humor. Like, like not even like babyish, like, oh, I kicked you in the balls. It's like, no, you're stupid. Like, real fucking shit humor.
Yeah, it feels like we're meant to be children, like...
Yeah.
If there was a line explaining, the old man wanted children and he built these robots to have children, then it would make a lot more sense, I think. It would add to the episode. But there's no explanation of why they behave the way they do. I always thought of it as, like, because they talk about, like, you know, the robots, like, well, you try being here for 100 years and not having your metal rust, that they've just gone a bit loopy from, like, just, like, overstaying their like expiry or whatever, you know. They've just been trapped on the ship for so long and not being maintained properly or whatever the fuck. But yeah, it's just something that's not really gone into, and I don't understand why they're here. Like, they do not add anything to the plot in any way, you know. Off camera, interestingly enough, you were saying they feel like CBBC characters, and interestingly
Yes.
enough, these designs were originally created for a CBBC show, Mission 2110, which lasted for 2 seasons. And the director of the mill really wanted to repurpose these designs for a bigger audience, and Chris Chibnall was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll write them in."
Yeah, fuck
Or
it.
yeah,
I need more
Yeah,
characters.
yeah, they have no reason for being here, but I'll write them in, sure.
Yeah. We cut back to Amy and the 2 useless history people as they're sitting at a computer and they're like hitting the computer and they're like, "Hey, computer, tell me your secrets." And then the computer decides not to do that as we cut away again to the Doctor and that, where we get some shit comedy with a Triceratops, where Triceratops comes up, starts sniffing Rory's dad's balls, and then he's like, "Oh, it's my balls, my golf balls, ha ha ha," and then it like licks his face and like. This is like a common theme with a lot of films and TV shows. I don't remember who it was that first brought this to my attention. Some YouTube criticism person. Whenever there is an anthropomorphized animal, or an animal that is given a personality, that personality is always dog.
Yeah.
This dinosaur is just a dog. That's all it fucking is. It's just a dog. And it's a theme in everything. If you ever have this weird, strange animal, it's going to be a dog. It's going to act like a dog because it's a companion. It's going to be like a dog. And it's just boring. It's the most boring choice you could make. Make this Triceratops like a cat. Like, make it just fucking not interested in shit. Like...
I'm fine with the dog thing. It's just, why is it acting like a dog? I don't think dinosaurs would act like that, but okay.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's just like, oh yeah, it's in here because Stephen Moffat wanted to add in a ball joke. That's the only reason why this whole thing is in here.
And because this is a very kiddie episode of Doctor Who, and they want to use their dinosaurs in a lighthearted way that's not going to be like Jurassic Park horror, and it's going to be more fucking CBBC comedy. And what's the dinosaur going to do? It's going to be a dog, it's going to be cute, and it's going to play fetch, It's a strange episode. And even as far as like when fucking Rory's dad gets licked, he gets covered in slime, and there's nothing I fucking hate more is characters being covered in slime. Characters covered in slime, I'm like, I'm watching Nickelodeon. This is a Nickelodeon show now, I think the only thing that gets away with it for me is Ghostbusters, but even then it's toting that fucking line where I'm like, why does it have to be slime? Like,
I mean, even in Ghostbusters, Slimer is a fucking dog as well.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. We cut back to Rory, where she's at the computer, and we get some exposition that the spaceship was owned by the Silurians, which kind of confused me. Were the Silurians spacefaring? I thought they were just kind of like on Earth. Why did they have...
I don't understand either. It's a Silurian arc, and this whole idea was made up by Stephen Moffat, which was interesting because you would have thought it would be Chris Chibnall's idea because he wrote the Silurian episode 2 seasons ago. But it just feels very random to just have Silurians for no reason.
It's just they're there and they all died. And this also leads to a huge question and logic I have here, because Amy's like, okay, show me the life signs on the ship right now. And we see like there's basically nobody alive. And she's like, show me the life signs on the ship like X amount of days ago. And there's like fucking hundreds of people. And she's like, show them side by side. Oh my God, where did all the people go? Where are all the life signs? And I had this question to you off screen. I was like, what the fuck? Are the dinosaurs not alive? Like, are the dinosaurs, like, are these not real dinosaurs? Are they robots as well? Like, why don't they have life signs? And it's not even like you could be like the life signs are adjusted only to see the Silurians, like, because the Silurians are fucking reptiles. How would you be able to differentiate that like life sign?
Yeah, if it was like, oh yeah, show the life signs of like humanoid creatures. Like, the Silurians are humanoid, so
you could get away with that.
Make a distinction between humanoid creatures and the dinosaurs. But it's very strange.
But basically she finds out that there's only one life sign really in the ship, and it is in a smaller ship that's inside this ship. And that's where the Doctor meets our villain, where he walks in and the big gates slam behind him. And we get some shit comedy with the robots again. And this is where we are introduced properly to the villain Solomon, played by William Hartnell. in an amazing cameo. I thought they brought him back from the dead. They dressed him up. It was incredible, truly incredible.
Do you remember his actual name, or are you just?
It's William Hartnell.
But yeah, of course, this is David Bradley, who we just discussed like 2 weeks ago in the Surgeon Adventures.
We've been talking about David Bradley a lot these past few months because we've been talking about Capaldi's Regeneration episode quite frequently recently as well, which of course is where he actually plays the First Doctor. I fucking love David Bradley as an actor. I think he's great in everything he's in, you know.
I think he works better playing William Hartnell in the biopic than he does for the First Doctor in Twice Upon a Time. Also because the First Doctor was way out of character in Twice Upon a Time. I did not like his characterization.
I liked him in Twice Upon a Time. But I'll have to revisit it now that I've watched First Doctor episodes. But, like, the First Doctor is a cunt. Like, he's straight up just a dick. So I think...
Yeah, but he's not that bad compared...
he's pretty bad, Scott. He's pretty bad. He's not a nice man. Like, you know...
like... In Twice Upon a Time, his whole shtick is, oh yeah, the First Doctor was a bit sexist, wasn't he? And he kind of was, but that's only because it was made in the 60s.
Yeah,
the
but like that
himself wasn't sexist.
That's just a character, you know, if you're thinking of it like the character is what their lines are, you know. And so, like, he would say a sexist line here or there, or he would have a sexist trait where, like, he's the man and he's got to do things and leave the girls behind. Sure, he's a product of the time, but that's also, it becomes established lore that that's what this version of the Doctor behaves like. You know, that this one, like, there's a reason he chose to live in 1963, Scott. Like, you know, he could have lived at any time period. He was like, 1963 for me. That's where we're going, you know.
We'll get to that episode sometime. It'll be an interesting debate.
But Solomon's basically like, hey, I got hurt and I need a doctor to fix my leg because it's owie. And then the doctor's like, oh, you need an actual doctor to fix your leg. Cool. Well, I could fix your leg for you, but first tell me why you're on this spaceship and where everybody else is gone. And then Solomon goes, okay, hurt the old guy. And the robot shoots Rory's dad. Doesn't kill him, just kind of injures him a bit. And this is where it's quite a long scene with the Doctor and Solomon. And this is where things kind of kick off and we see just what type of man Solomon really is.
A very lovely man.
So the Doctor basically tells Solomon off for shooting Rory's dad. And then we get a very sweet scene with Rory and Rory's dad, where Rory is patching him up, and, you know, because Rory is a nurse and he's using his nursing skills, a companion remembering what their job is and using that in a useful situation to establish character. Who fucking ever thought Chibnall could do that?
Yeah, and also it's a useful job to have when you're in the TARDIS because people get injured all the time.
Yeah.
You know? And also Yaz could be using her position to be like taking control of any situation she's in because she's a police officer, but no.
Wait, Yaz
she
is
forgets about it.
Yaz is a police officer? I don't think that was established. But the Doctor and Solomon then continue to have a very long discussion about, you know, who the Doctor is and stuff like that. And the Doctor's like, oh, I'm not going to talk about myself when I have a gun pointed at me. And Solomon's like, oh, I scanned you. Do you want to find out? Let's see what the computer says you are. And the computer's like, oh, no records found of Matt Smith. Which is, I think, unless I'm getting my wires crossed, a reference to, let me check on BBC iPlayer here, hang on, season 6. Oh god, I honestly don't know. Maybe, is it A Good Man Goes to War that they wiped the fucking history? Season 7?
I
Season 5?
couldn't tell you. I haven't seen Moffat's era in quite a bit.
Yeah, I would need to rewatch it to really know. But
I remember at the end of series 6 he dies and he kind of like goes away for a bit. I mean, at the end of Asylum of the Daleks, he gets erased from the Daleks database or whatever, but...
Yeah, but I think Asylum of the Daleks, he was getting erased from, like, all of history, because he was like, because his whole thing was, like, I'm too famous, everybody knows I'm the Doctor, I've been around for too long, we need to, like, wipe me from everything, and that's how, like, he can become anonymous again, and that's why the episode ends with Doctor Who... Doctor Who.
Yeah, but wasn't that just Clara just erasing?
No, but I think it was everybody that he was getting erased for, and that's why the computer doesn't have records for him. I'm almost certain that it wasn't just the Daleks; it was everybody was forgetting who the Doctor was.
What was it with Moffat trying to do a clean slate every so often? Like series 5 opened with the cracks in time, basically making the first 4 series of the show non-canon, basically.
Moffat had an issue, I think, with a continued continuity.
Yeah.
I think he much preferred each season to kind of be its own puzzle box, you know, because like that's like the stuff with the silence, even the stuff with the cracks in time, you know, cracks in time is like its little puzzle. The fucking silence storyline is this fucking really complex little puzzle box, and then season 7 is just kind of 2 halves, you know, where he didn't really like this established, which what Russell T Davies was great at. You know, humanity advancing forward and the public being aware of aliens. Moffat really didn't. He just wanted them to be like a backdrop rather than like contributing factors to the story, which is something Chibnall continued, which I'm not a fan of. I hate people not remembering shit in Doctor Who. It drives me up the fucking wall.
Like people should remember if fucking Daleks by now. They attack London every fucking year.
In that New Year special where the Prime Minister was like, "Look, Daleks," and then get shot by Daleks, like. The fact they didn't remember who Daleks were at that point. 2, if they don't remember who Daleks are next time, I'm going to be fucking stunned because they murdered the Prime Minister on live TV, you know?
Yeah.
To be fair, though, half the universe is being destroyed also by the Daleks at this point, but I'm going to guess the universe is going to magically repair itself next time we see it.
And also, Flux happened, which kind of maybe destroyed half the universe, but also maybe didn't kind of destroy half the universe. I'm not sure how that fucking works, but... Yeah,
no, it destroyed half the universe, and then it was... genociding the Daleks and the Cybermen and just having a good time, and then everything was fine.
Flux which here the Doctor talks about the genocide of the Silurians, because they have to... Every fucking Silurian episode has the Silurians being genocided, which is kind of amazing. Like, it's just a continued trend.
Yeah.
But yeah, here the Doctor actually cares about genocide in a Chibnall script, which surprised us, honestly.
Yeah, because he's talking with Solomon, and he's like, "What did you do with the Silurians, Solomon?" And Solomon's like, "Oh, well, basically the robots threw them out the airlock bit by bit. We woke them up from cryo sleep in handfuls of a time and just slowly like threw them out into space until there were none left. Because I really want these dinosaurs." And the Doctor was very much not happy with that answer. But you know what? Kudos to Solomon for just being straight up like, "I'm a bad pirate guy, by the way." Like, he could have just got his leg repaired and moved on, you know. But no, he was like, "No, you need to know I'm a bad dude. Like, I murdered everybody, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm just gonna tell you."
But I'm surprised the Doctor isn't like, "Oh yeah, let's be friends," because I'm still friends with that dinosaur hunter. You know?
And then, you know, the Doctor is like, "Okay, well, I'm going to leave now, bye." And he leaves with Rory and that. He distracts the robots. And then Solomon's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Go after them." And we get a really shit chase scene that I hate of the Doctor, Rory's dad, and Rory on the back of a Triceratops running through the spaceship while robots chase them. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? What I just described sounds fucking awesome. What's on screen is a bunch of really bad jokes. It's just really bad comedy. Really, like, it could be like just describing the scene, it sounds like it should be so much fun, and for whatever reason I think it gets lost in translation a bit, where it doesn't come across as super fun, you know. It just comes across as a bit like, fuck, I don't like this, you know.
It also doesn't help that every fucking line the robots have is a joke.
Yeah.
Like, one robot is like, "Oh yeah, we're getting away," and the other robot's like, "Oh, I can see that."
Yeah,
You're just reminded that this is a Chibnall script, because characters are explaining what's happening on screen.
Yeah, but like their very next line of dialogue, right? So their first line of dialogue, "They're getting away. I can see that." Their next line of dialogue, "They've gone. Weren't you looking?" "No, I wasn't." You just said you could fucking see it. What are you on about? Like...
Yeah, and also it's not really established where they are in relation to each other. You know, the robots and the Doctor and all that.
The issue I have with the spaceship is it doesn't feel like, it just feels like a studio set. Yeah. It doesn't feel like an established spaceship with boundaries. It's just here's a corridor in a studio, run down it. Here's another corridor, you know.
Because Ronald Weasley's dad kind of throws the ball, and you're not really sure where it's going, because it's really in a straight line. It just keeps on bouncing for like 2 minutes for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it goes around the corner, because obviously the robots lose one. It's very confusing where everything is in relation to one another.
But all we need to know is that they got away. Then the Doctor ends up Skype calling India for some reason, because this is something we've not talked about. The Indian Space Agency is the one taking priority right now with blowing up this alien spaceship, because it's like in the year like 2300 or whatever, and apparently the Indian Space Agency was a big thing right there. You know what I think this could be? The reason it's the ISA and not like UNIT or that, I think this is because season 7 specifically, I think, was really guilty of this. Doctor Who trying to be globalized. You know, maybe this one's got the Indian Space Agency because they want to market this episode a bit more in India. They want to try and get a bit more Indian viewers. The very next episode, set in America, which a lot of season 6 was set in. You know, Matt Smith's era loved fucking America, and Matt Smith's era is when Doctor Who became popular in America. What a shock. I wonder why that happened. You know, it was very much the BBC trying to reach past the boundaries of the United Kingdom with Doctor Who's a show, which fair enough. You know, it's not something that's ever really worked before. And then whatever it was with Matt Smith's era, like that really blew up in the States, which was lovely, because they think it's one of the main reasons the show's continued, honestly, is they get pretty decent numbers in the United States still. Which, to be fair, they get good numbers here as well. People just blow it out of proportion.
Yeah, maybe Chibnall didn't want to do UNIT because 2 episodes time he's writing for UNIT. He introduces Kate Stewart, so maybe he just doesn't want to write for UNIT here.
Maybe it's also because he knew that at this time in history they would have been dissolved because Snake Eye would have taken over because of Flux, and like UNIT would have been completely dismantled and just a former shell of what it really was. Like Chibnall had Flux planned out for years, I think.
Oh yeah, a 10-year plan. He had it all sorted out. Even though in Flux, I don't know what the fuck was happening in Flux.
The fucking ISA is basically like, we're gonna blow up this ship, okay, bye, and hangs up, and we cut to Amy and the 2 history companions, which at this point I would like to say we are half an hour into this episode, we are 3/4 of the way done. These 3 have done fuck all.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't need to be in the episode. Amy, like, you need to have her, just stick her with Rory and Rory's dad, because really the main trio we've been following is the Doctor, Rory, and Rory's dad, and they're great, but Amy's left doing nothing, and this scene epitomizes a nothing scene, where it is just the goddamn big game hunter going like, oh, I've got a penis. Like,
what they've been doing so far is just walking around the ship, they hit a computer and watch a Silurian message, and then Amy phones the Doctor and says, oh yeah, we're on a Silurian ship, by the way.
Yeah.
That's all they've really done. There's no purpose to their story arc. These 3 characters could have been just written out. It just could have been an adventure with the Doctor, Brian, his name is Brian, right?
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, and Rory.
It could be Amy's out to the shops, the Doctor materializes around Rory and Rory's dad thinking that it's Rory and Amy and leaves without realizing, you know, and you could have like a fun little adventure where Rory's like, fucking, we've left Amy behind, what is this dynamic? You know, and that's a fun twist on the companion dynamic.
That could have been fun, but I guess with the final 5 episodes of Amy and Rory, you want Amy to still be in there. And she kind of gets some fun, feisty lines where she's like, oh yeah, I'm the queen in the relationship.
Yeah, she's like, I'm Rory's queen. She's like, fucking don't tell Rory that I said I'm his queen. Like,
which you could tell is like a Stephen Moffat line, because for some reason Stephen Moffat really likes dominating women characters and also penis jokes, and Stephen Moffat's MO right there.
I love him. I love Moffat as a writer. Good writer. But this is also a scene where the Doctor kisses Rory in a very fun like burst of passion when like Amy's delivering exposition to him, and she's like, oh, it's the Silurians, blah blah blah, and Rory's like, oh, we should check like this room here, this fucking plot room here, and the Doctor's like, genius, kisses him, and he's like, wait, that won't work, and then he like gently slaps both sides of his face. They're like, fucking, the Doctor's a weird abusive relationship with Rory. Like then as they're trying to establish a plan, Solomon approaches once more in a very eerily fucking spooky monologue-y man way that he does. So Solomon approaches the Doctor and gives this very long, ominous speech where he's like, you know, I scanned this ship and I found something mysterious and I don't know how you got a hold of it. You know, it's this, you know, truly unique object. And the whole time, because I actually forgot what he was talking about, I was thinking, the TARDIS. Yes, we're going to do the whole, let's steal the TARDIS thing and, you know, let's get this over with. And then he goes, you know, Queen What's-Her-Face from Egypt. You know, I must have her. which one establishes two things really well. One, total misdirection, didn't see it coming. Love that he wants, this person from history over just the TARDIS, which is, different than most villains. Two, him referring to her as an it really just makes you hate him even more, because he's like, she's not a person, she is just an object, a trophy for me to obtain, and I will have it. It completely dehumanizes her because it's just something he wants,
it really helps. It really helps you hate him, because at the start when he has his broken leg, you're like, oh, I feel kind of pity for him in a way. But here you're like, oh yeah, he's a straight up villain. So it helps at the end when he gets killed off, which we kind of have issues with, as we were saying off camera, but it is what it is. Sometimes the Doctor just kills someone.
We'll address those issues when we get to that scene, I think. But for now, there's another death even, and that is the death of the Triceratops, because Solomon goes, give me the girl. Doctor goes, fuck no. Solomon goes, cool, dinosaur's dead. And the robot shoots the dinosaur and it dies in a scene that I think is well earned. Because this is a relatively child-friendly episode of Doctor Who. And if I was a kid watching this episode, I'd think it's a pretty fun romp. If I was like 6-7 years old, I'd be like, this is a fun episode of Doctor Who. And then when they kill the dinosaur, suddenly, oh fuck, I'm crying. Because they killed the dog, basically, and Doctor Who needs to have that, almost adult feel at times for kids, where it's really, it's not super adult at all, but like if you're a kid watching it, it's not like any other show, where it's like, oh, this is dealing with a more mature theme I wasn't expecting to be watching, and I'm kind of liking it. I think killing off the dinosaur was the right choice.
Yeah. Which is also like just a total tonal shift compared to 5 minutes ago when Mitchell and Webb was just joking about being rusty or whatever. It's just like, oh yeah, what the hell happened?
Yeah, they just shot a dinosaur dead. But it's a good scene. And then Solomon's like, next I'm going to start shooting you guys if you don't get the girl. Doctor's still standing his ground saying no, but then nevertheless, suddenly Amy and the two useless other people, one of them being the Queen, one of them being Game Hunter, show up. And she's like, the Game Hunter, not the Game Hunter, Queenie is like, hey, I demanded to come here, I'm going to turn myself over because I won't have people die for me, basically, and then we get a lovely threat of rape from Solomon when he pins the Queen up against a wall and is like, I'm going to have great pleasure breaking you in, and it's fucking gross. Although it is a line that went like over my head the first time I watched it, very much not subtle at all watching it this time, but I guess it was subtle enough for 12-year-old me to miss it.
It's shocking that we got away with it 7 o'clock on a Saturday.
It's honestly, it's pretty fucking dark. Like, and again, another weird change in tone from Mitchell and Webb making shit kids jokes to I'm gonna rape you.
It was like 10 minutes ago we were on a fucking dinosaur being chased by robots.
It's really strange. But basically they teleport back off to the ship, and the Doctor's left with the plan where he's like, okay, we've got to try and solve this one, we're gonna save the day here, this is what we're gonna do. And there's a lot going on at this moment where the Doctor's going around fiddling with stuff. Big Game Hunter's like, I'm gonna go shoot some dinosaurs and keep us all safe. And then the Doctor has suddenly a really quiet scene with him and Amy, basically foreshadowing Amy and Rory's departure from the show, where she's like, it's getting longer and longer, these gaps between you visiting us, it's like you're trying to ease us away from being on adventures with you. And the Doctor's like, oh no, I'd never stop having adventures with you, and not unless I died. And then Amy's like, or vice versa. And then they stare at each other for about 10 seconds in silence, which, breaks my heart, is some fun foreshadowing, a bit heavily on the nose. But famously, I really like Amy and Rory's death. I think their entire story is really heartbreaking. And famously, you're like a Grinch and you hate everything in Doctor Who. You're like, I don't even know why you like the show, honestly.
Okay. The thing is, I was emotional when we got zapped, but then I kept on thinking about it. There's a lot there that just doesn't make sense. Like, why can't the Doctor ever just go back? I know
because the angels make a time bubble over Manhattan, and the TARDIS can't break the time bubble. Because time, it's a bubble of time.
Does that make sense to you? Because it doesn't to me.
Yeah, but I think it's okay at times to twist reality of the show and to twist the rules of the show to establish a death and to get rid of a companion in a way that's going to be heartbreaking, because, you know, Doctor Who 1 is a show that doesn't have any fucking rules to begin with, and 2 is also a show where death is essentially meaningless when you have a time machine, you know, which is established in Clara's death, which I think Clara's death is handled really well as well, but you know, the issue that happens with Clara's death is canonically she is dead. At that point, when the crow hits her, she does not live any further. She is dead. But she has an infinite amount of time between that fraction of a second of her being alive and her being dead, where she can travel throughout space and time as much as she likes because she has a fucking time machine. You know, and that's the issue when you have time machines, you become immortal. Because even if you die in 1962, you're alive in 2058, you know?
As a thing with Doctor Who deaths, you're right. Like, they could have like a million Big Finish box sets with Clara and me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also have a million different box sets of Amy and Rory just doing
just
stuff
hanging out
in
the 1940s or wherever, you know.
And there's also like a million box sets where Rory is with Roman's Auton as well. It's like, there's a lot of box sets out there.
You know, so establishing a death in Doctor Who, a canonical death, is so fucking hard. I think like even fucking River Song didn't die. You know, River Song got uploaded to the fucking internet or whatever the fuck happened in the library. You know, she didn't die, but that's still the end point for her because she can't go on anymore. All you can establish is they have to stop being able to go on adventures, and you can either do that by the Doctor being like, you flirted with someone, fuck off, or you can try to kill them in a way that's going to make them like quote unquote die, you know.
You see, I always felt that the Angels in Manhattan should have established that the Doctor thinks he has a bad influence on Amy and Rory's life, which is why he never wants to go back and visit them, because he realizes, they lived on to have a really happy life, and if I went back, they'd be in extreme danger, they'd probably die, and bad stuff would happen to them or whatever, and he doesn't want to go visit them because of that reason. I don't like the whole time bubble thing because it doesn't make sense, because, you know, the Doctor could just take a bus to New York or wherever they are.
The time bubble thing is I think like a fucking patch over the script to try and justify why the Doctor could be, because like even Matt Smith's Doctor, you know, to get him to believe that he's such a burden on Amy and Rory would be so hard. You'd really have to rewrite the episode from the ground up to have them a lot more annoyed at the Doctor visiting them and interrupting their life, you know, or like even establish in these previous 4 episodes, like every time he interrupts, you know, he interrupts them when he's with their dad and stuff. It's like they're not getting a chance to have a normal life, but instead it's written that they miss hanging out with the Doctor and they're not really enjoying their normal life as much. Where
but even at the end, Amy and Rory are like, we need another break from you, Doctor. This is too much.
Yeah. I think if they established that a bit more, where they were like, we need to, you know, maybe we're thinking about leaving, maybe we're thinking about settling down, and then their death comes in as even more of a surprise, because you're thinking they're just going to say that we're done and hang up the boots, but instead they're like, we'll do one last ride, and then fucking get zapped, and then the Doctor's like, okay, this, you know, I'm going to let them have the rest that they wanted, you know, which I guess you could do it that way, but I don't know, maybe they just didn't think it through and they were like, fuck, shit, why wouldn't the Doctor visit? Fucking time bubble, I don't know, you know. The time bubble I'm not a huge fan of, but all of it gets overshadowed by the giant fucking Statue of Liberty angel. That's by far the worst thing in that episode. So, like,
God. Yeah, we could do Angels Take Manhattan. It'd be like a 20-hour podcast.
I do really like that episode. I think it's a really good episode with some really dumb moments.
Yeah, I remember liking it a lot as well. Just some dumb
like
moments.
Matt Smith's performance in it is fucking insane.
God, yeah.
You know, it's the moment where, I mean, we're not even talking about the episode, but it's the moment where he, like, when Amy gets zapped and he realizes that she's gone and he just sits on the TARDIS and stomps his feet. Fucking breaks my heart every time. Like, it's incredible. But
yeah, also in the scene, I do like that the Doctor's like, okay, this is a perfect time to just talk normally, because I like multitasking and we're doing this stuff with the wires as well, which is a problem in a lot of Chibnall scripts, where you just have characters standing around talking about their feelings for no reason when there's something really dangerous going on or whatever. It's like there's no reason for them to have this conversation, but here the Doctor's like, I can multitask, it's fine, I could just talk to you, which I like.
Yeah, and this is also where we learn that Rory and his dad have to rub off the ship to get it to fly. They both have to kind of jerk off the ship, because the ship can only be controlled by people with the same gene code, which, what's the fucking convenience that Rory's dad's on this journey with us as well right now. And the controls for the ship are little wee nubs that they have to rub delicately with their 2 fingers on either side, and they have to communicate, and they're like, oh, let me do it a bit harder on my side, oh, and I was like, fucking Jesus, man. Like, they're giving this ship a good time.
I think it's probable what the TARDIS knew that they'd need.
Maybe.
Brian
Yeah. You can justify it because the TARDIS it's like God, the TARDIS provides. But this is also where the Doctor like traps Solomon's ship with a magnet. It's delivered so quickly where Solomon just goes, "Oh, we can't fly. He's magnetized us." Where I'm like, "Fucking what?" Okay. But the Doctor boards Solomon's ship and he's like, "Hey, Solomon, give back the girl." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna kill her." But then the girl's like, "Fuck you, Solomon," and beats him up. And it's like, yeah, cool, that's cool, whatever. I don't really care about either of the characters in the scene. Yeah. He also kills Mitchell and Webb.
Yeah, there's also a scene where Amy and the hunter guy are just shooting dinosaurs, which is fun because I like seeing Amy feels useful in this scene compared to every other companion that Chibnall writes for.
It's a fine little action scene where they're just like shooting dinosaurs with tranquilizer guns, of course.
Yeah.
But we also have a scene now where the Doctor is like, "Hey, Solomon, this is the thing that the missiles that are coming for the ship are going to shoot because they're like tracking this specific object for whatever fucking reason. I don't worry about it. I'm going to leave it on this ship, and I'm going to leave you here. Bye, you're going to die." And wait, surely I don't get it. Like, wouldn't the Doctor just like take Solomon and then take him to like the Time Police or something?
Exactly.
You know, wouldn't he like just be like, "You're coming with me"? Because Solomon is like a crippled man. He can't really fight back. His whole power was in the robots. Now he's just a defenseless dude who, committed genocide. But this is the fucking issue I always have with Chibnall scripts. The solution to somebody committing genocide isn't do more genocide. That's never the fucking answer, you know? But that's always what he resorts to. He always fucking goes to, let's just kill off the baddie because that's easier than having to justify, getting them somewhere or locking them up or something. And like Solomon even ends like screaming, "Doctor!" super cheesily. Why can't you have him screaming that from a cell?
Yeah.
You know?
The Doctor
Where's the shadow proclamation?
Yeah, the Doctor could have had a whole speech being like, "If I was you, I would just leave this on your ship and cause you to go to your death. But I'm not you. I'm a better man."
He literally says in the episode, "Don't judge me by your standards," and then does the fucking thing Solomon's been doing this entire time. Like
if he just diverted the ship to the Indian space thing, whatever that fucking thing is called, but it's only in this episode, by the way.
Yeah.
But fair enough, that would be fine. That would work,
Literally, he just needs to take Solomon off the ship and then press go on his ship controls. So that it's an empty ship that's getting blown up and nobody dies. But, like, I don't understand the choice to kill Solomon.
Or even if the only other option was that the villain dies or maybe commits suicide because he doesn't want to go to jail or anything. And the Doctor's like, "Oh shit, I don't like this. I want to..."
It's like a last laugh from Solomon where he's like, "You know what? Fuck you, Doctor. You don't get to save me. You're not getting to do this. I'm going out on my terms with my bounty." Like, he chooses greed over fucking any. Like, he chooses to try and escape with some treasure, knowing it's going to be his doom, then dare admit fault and get arrested. But instead he's left screaming "Doctor" as he explodes in fucking space. It's probably the worst choice you could have made. It's like first draft choice, isn't it? Which is what Chibnall does, first draft. But this basically wraps up the episode. The episode wraps up fucking quick, where everyone's just loading back into the TARDIS. Amy and Rory go, "We'd like to go home, please." And then the Doctor just takes him home. We get that little hint with Rory where he's like, oh, I think it's something with the fitting. There's something wrong with the light, which is what you were saying, could be like a dropped storyline that nobody really noticed, which would have been an interesting storyline. I wonder what they were building to with that.
Yeah, again, go on YouTube and search up Mr. TARDIS dropped season 7 storyline. We could add a link into the description because I can't remember the exact title, but it's a very interesting video about a potential drop storyline.
Interesting. And we find out that Rory's dad has gotten really into Photoshop. As he sends them postcards of him at different locations around the world. Because
you skipped over a really nice scene of Brian enjoying tea while sitting at
Oh
the
yeah,
TARDIS.
I forgot about that scene, honestly. But they all get back in the TARDIS. It's my favorite scene in the episode, which is Brian being like, I have a request before we go home. And then we just cut to him looking down on the earth, drinking tea and eating a sandwich. And it's just like the most British thing ever. It's like straight out of a Hitchhiker's book. It's fucking beautiful. I love it.
And there's also a really nice shot of just the Doctor looking at the back of Amy and Rory's head. Being
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not going to get to enjoy much adventures of you anymore because you've
No.
kind of outgrown me. That's kind of the theme of season 7.
Yeah.
Amy kind of outgrows the Doctor because, of course, her whole arc is she grew up with the Doctor, essentially. Now she's outgrown them.
Yeah. And then we get that scene with the light bulbs and the traveling round. And we also then, like, end the episode on a weird note, establishing that Big Game Hunter got together with the Queen of Egypt, which, the Queen of Egypt went missing, so I guess instead she traveled to the future and started dating this guy that loves killing animals, and then the episode ends. And it's like, okay.
Who enjoys hunting animals and is a giant sexist.
Yeah,
But
brilliant.
sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Great.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about either of them, honestly. And that's the end of this episode. Albeit mixed bag of an episode, but a fun romp, I think. What are your thoughts on this episode, Scott?
It has really weird tonal shifts, and it's also very weirdly paced. Like suddenly you get a quick scene, like the first 5 minutes are just blah 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 blah, and it goes very slowly for a bit, and it's a very weird pace.
So what you're saying is it's the perfect foreshadowing for Chibnall's seasons.
Yes.
I think it really is the perfect prototype for what a Chibnall season would look like, is dinosaurs on a spaceship,
Yeah, but it's a fun episode, But Chibnall is it's a fun episode if it's just a one-off. But when every episode in a series turns out like this in a Chibnall run, it kind of gets tiring after a while.
You start noticing the pattern a lot more. Yeah. I think this is a fine episode. I think, performance-wise, it's fine. The issue, production-wise, I have from this is it's very clearly a fucking studio the entire time. It's very much this is shot in-house episode of Doctor Who, which you need for budget reasons. And it's fine. It's fine. It's a solid second episode of season 7.
Yeah.
Where it's just a little adventure.
And that's the Chibnall run of his guest runs.
That's his golden fucking spot.
Yeah.
Like episode 2. Like,
because this is sadly, we were discussing it earlier, this is sadly one of Chibnall's best episodes in Doctor Who, which is sad because we're not that positive about it.
It's a solid mid episode. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's an episode you could shove popcorn into your face with. That's all I could really say.
Like, it's not an episode I would ever go out my way to show somebody, but if it was on, I'd probably watch it.
Yeah.
It's fine. But next week, Scott, Doctor Who Chris Chibnall week month. Chris Chibnall month is continuing.
Yes.
What is it continuing with, Scott?
Next week we are doing the Torchwood episode Adrift, which is, in my opinion, the best script he has ever written for within the Doctor Who universe. So I'm looking forward to that one. You haven't seen it ever.
I have not seen it ever. I'm excited to revisit Torchwood. I've dipped in and out of watching the show.
Yeah.
Since we covered the pilot, like fucking, I don't know, 3 years ago at this point. It'll be nice to revisit Torchwood. I think it'll be interesting to see how Chibnall handles it. You've bigged it up quite a bit for me, so I'm going in with high expectations. We'll see if it lives up to those expectations.
It's a very adult episode of Torchwood. It's not adult like in season 1 where it's all about sex and sex gas for some reason. It's very adult in terms of, this is a heart-wrenching story, and it's really dark.
Okay. But in the meantime, you could send us an email with your thoughts on Chris Chibnall scripts, Chris Chibnall episodes, and Dinosaurs on a Spaceship by sending an email to whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. We will read them out at the end of the month with our news roundup podcast. So that's whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. In the meantime, you can find this podcast on YouTube at Who Watches Who, on Twitter at Watches Doctor, on Facebook at Who Watches Who. It's available in audio form wherever you listen to podcasts. There's like a billion links in the description. You can find me on Twitter at Cloth223. You can find me on Twitch playing different video games at something orange. I'm all over the place on the internet. I'd probably say something else at this point. See you next week. I don't fucking know. Bye. Bye.